Hello and welcome to Really Coding Channel. My name's Jay. This is the 7th installment of my Cookiecutter Django series here. And in this one, we are going to get into WebSockets. So this might be a short one actually. This might be an introduction to what's already set up in regards to WebSockets, followed by, and I'll use the same project across. Let me get one going here. Followed by how to install channels, and then we'll play around with channels, and then I'll get into Celery, and then we'll play around with channels and channels and Celery, and all manner of other things. We'll build a notification system. But first, let's talk about WebSockets. So to get started, you need to run Cookiecutter GH. Oh, and there's some updates to Django Cookiecutter. So if you've been following along Cookiecutter, then this is for you. You're gonna want you might need to know this. And if this is your first video in my series here, and you plan on watching others, just know that what I'm about to show you here, we'll call this WS test, is the way things are now. Multitasking. We'll say yes to Windows, 3 for VS Code, yes to Docker. Still working with Webpack. There's some things that I don't like about it. I'm not sure if it's me or if it's the configuration or if it's just the way things have to be. We'll build this up, and then we'll go look at some stuff while it builds. Alright, so the big change I was talking about, it's massive, is that they have changed the name of the file that you call. It's not local anymore, it's docker-compose.local.yml. So just keep that in mind. Alright, so while that builds, what we're looking at here is if we go to the Cookiecutter docs, if we go to WebSockets over here on the sidebar, we'll run this in the console here in a minute. But we basically already have WebSockets set up. You can enable WebSockets if you select use async option when creating a project. This is also what allows the project to update. Oh, and one more thing that I'm going to end up making a video about, but I was wrong about, is that there is a docs. Sphinx is built in, but they took it out of the main build. Now you run it by itself, and it builds an SQLite DB file in config, I believe. Whenever you run it, that stores all of your docs information, and it runs separately. Because one thing is that back in the day is it was pretty heavy to run, so it does that. So there is docs. Docs are still here. Found that. I've been writing documentation for a project. So just keep that in mind, and I'll end up doing a video on Sphinx within this project later. But anyways, back to WebSockets. I just want to throw that out there. Okay, so we're going to run this in the terminal here in a little bit, and I'll show you what it does, but we already have a WebSocket configured. I'll walk us through that. This is what we're working with, so I'll just read it. The HTTP plus WebSockets ASGI sub-specification outlines how to transport HTTP 1.1 and HTTP 2 and WebSocket connections within ASGI. It is deliberately intended and designed to be a superset of WSGI format and specifies how to translate between the two for the set of requests that are able to be handled by WSGI. So it's just asynchronous. But WSGI is synchronous, handling one request at a time and blocking execution until processing is complete. ASGI is asynchronous, handling multiple requests concurrently without blocking other requests. So essentially, this is a layer built on top of Python or Django that you can use instead of WSGI that's asynchronous. So it's going to handle... WebSockets aren't the only thing that it handles, but it handles WebSockets. Raw WebSockets are, what do they call them? Point-to-point, where one point can send to a point and then get a response back. But if you think about that, some things that that use WebSockets, chat rooms, for instance, if somebody sends a chat and it comes back to them and shows up on their screen, that's great, but nobody else can see it. So WebSockets raw by themselves are not really the solution here. But there are a couple of native, and this is really cross-platform, cross-code base that you're going to find these. So for instance, if you look at the example over here, you'll see that we set a WebSocket. We set the on message to an event to console log the event data so that we can see when something comes through. And then we just hit, on the WebSocket that we set, we do send and send text, right? Over here you can see that we've got, this is on the Python side, but we have send, we have receive. Receive's a little different, I guess. This is on message, right? But again, it's kind of universal from what I can tell. We have the send event, disconnect client, send exception, receive event. Let's go look into the code real quick. This is still building. In the actual code, if you go to the config folder, if you look, we have a WSGI file. Okay. We also have an ASGI file, and because we picked async, the ASGI file is the one that's in charge. In here, if you go look, what we can see off the just right out the gate here, we have this from config.websocket import WebSocket application. So we'll go look at that in a second. Down here you see we have an async function. It's an application. It takes scope, received, send. This is where it's sending HTTP requests to the regular Django application. This is where it is sending WebSocket requests to the WebSocket application. And we're going to change this up quite a bit because there's no routing here. It's sending all WebSocket requests to this config WebSockets.py right here. So when this gets finished, when this finishes spinning up here, we'll test this out. But basically, we have a WebSocket application, while true, it's just a while loop. Event, await, receive. So the event's going to be set whenever whenever a receive happens, because again, those are native functions that are built. They're built in to the WebSocket functionality. Sorry, I'm hearing banging. They're built into the WebSocket functionality. So whenever data is sent to the WebSocket, or a connection or a message sent to the WebSocket, that fires a receive. So that sets this event, which sets in motion all of this stuff. So if the event type is a WebSocket connect, then it's going to await send type WebSocket.receive. So this is another method. WebSocket accept, and that's going to accept the connection, which is what opens it. So then the WebSocket connection is going to be open. It's going to be sitting there. So from that point, if we send a disconnect signal, it's just going to break the while loop, which breaks the connection, which breaks this. If the type is WebSocket receive, then it's going to well, if the text equals ping, then it's going to await and send text back pong, right? So for instance, right here, that just spun up. So let's do this. Let's copy this. I'm going to paste it, and we'll say if it's hey, how are you? Let's save. Let's go to the application. One of my favorite things about working with WebSockets is there's not nearly as much refreshing. All right. I have to point out that this is just really useful to have this here, but we're just going to set this WebSocket. We're going to paste it into the console. That. And we'll say WebSocket on message equals console.log event data. All right, so if we say, should I zoom in here? Say WS send ping we got pong back, right? And if I say hey, how are you? So this is useful for, I guess, a few things. So like a chat bot, if you think about it, obviously, right, we're kind of having a conversation right here. You could have it recall stuff from your database. So if I send recent contacts, then it returns the 20 most recent contacts from my CRM. You could, so like there's some useful userness. There's some useful user functionality that can be set up here with just these raw WebSockets. Now, in regards to routing, see if I can find it in here. There's probably not any. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't know how that works exactly. I'm not going to say that I know definitively. But just keep in mind in this situation, the way it comes out of the box with Cookiecutter Django, this WebSocket is set up in the WebSocket.py file in the config folder. And then also in the config folder is the ASGI file that imports that WebSocket application, the asynchronous function, and sets it for any WebSocket requests. So you only get one WebSocket in this situation, but it is, you could check for, what the, you could write new functions, maybe. I guess technically, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out what you can do with these natively without the extras. However, that being said, what it really boils down to is you're going to end up having to build something like Django channels. So that is why in the next episode we're going to look at Django channels, which I'm trying to make sure I don't miss anything. And poke around with it real quick. Channel 10 news. Okay. This is Django channels, and then there's Django channels Redis right here. We won't need. This is already installed. I called ASGI. But it's the ASGI library. This is already installed. We don't need to install this. We're going to need channels. We're going to need channels Redis. We won't need Daphne. I think it's, I don't know exactly why we don't need Daphne, but Daphne essentially, if you're not using Docker, you'll need Daphne probably. But it hijacks your Django server, your Django development server, and just wraps it in ASGI, which is already being done in our case. So don't have to worry about that, but we will need these three, and one of them's already there. And in channels, one of the things that we get is routing. So we'll be able to change our ASGI file to look like this. Can't highlight it for some reason, but it'll look like that, right? Where instead of importing from that WebSocket file, we will create a consumers folder, and we will create some consumers in there and import them. We have a couple of there's a couple of things that we'll need to wrap with. We have this auth middleware stack, which if you read through here, I'm going over this now because I just kind of, in the next video I'm just going to build it, and we want to talk about it much, but consider this like a little crash course. The auth middleware stack is wrapped around, first you have this allowed host origins validator that's pretty self-explanatory. The WebSocket's going to make sure that the allowed host is allowed to access your URLs before it lets it go any further. From there you have the auth middleware stack. The auth middleware stack is for it works with Django AllAuth, so it's going to determine whether or not there's a user. It's going to put the user in the scope, so that's really good. There's two other. Where's middleware? Okay. There's sessions middleware, so it puts the sessions into the scope. And then the scope is the request. In a Django view, it's a request. In a consumer, it's scope. It's slightly different syntax to get to the information inside of it, but it's the same thing. Keep that in mind. Request, scope, same thing. But you get the sessions, and then you get cookies as well. So all three of these things, this is tucked in. This is a base middleware. This has cookies inside of it. This has both of those inside of it as well. So whenever you just see auth middleware, you know that you have all three of these, which is good. I mean, that's what you want access to those, just like in a request. sorry, I'm trying to make sure. Okay, but from there, in this situation, we would probably import. We'd make a routing file where we would put these, and we would use URL router here as well. But we would insert the object from the router, the routing.py file from config. So we'll do that. Layers. Okay, so the reason why, yeah, routing is a great reason to use channels. The layers is the most important. So we've already got Redis set up if you're using Cookiecutter Django with Docker. Let me see what basic setup. Is it on this page? You just ignore the parts about Daphne, but these are really good docs. It's not on this page. Where? It's not there either. Maybe it's an introduction. Wait. Oh, you know what? It's probably in layers. Yep, it's right there. Okay. This is Redis, your Redis channel layer. So you will need channels Redis, which is the package up front there. You set this. This is actually going to be your Redis container, so you're going to put Redis right there. So I'll walk through that as well. But this will set up a Redis layer for messaging. And what that does is it allows you to, it gives you layers. Like messaging layers to hold groups and to pass messages back and forth. The thing about the groups are that you have to have the name of the group to send a message to it. So the user has to have the name of the group to send a message to it. Your system does. So there's a little trick there. And there's a tutorial on here about doing a chat room, which I think we'll walk through. So yeah, we could probably just do that, but it's going to require configuring some stuff. So anyways, that's about what I've got in terms of just like the raw SGI WebSockets in Django. There's not even any really tutorials on the docs here for ASGI to go and to do anything. And just know that it's asynchronous activities. That's what it boils down to. But it's really great. In fact, maybe as an example. Okay, how long have I been going? It's only 23 minutes. Okay. So if you're still hanging out for this, here, I'll show you an example of a project that I'm working on that's using, what am I doing? Shut that down. Over here, projects. Sorry, my desktop's a mess. So I'm live streaming a game build over on Rumble. The Django application. It's a collectible trading card situation. That's not important. Let's get that going, and then we'll go into the shell here, and then we'll go to the website. so I can show you what I'm talking about. Don't know what that was. Okay. Let me sign in here. Oh, this looks weird. There we go. Okay, I don't know why it was like that. So what I've done is I've built a little Django application to test a few things. If I minimize this, it's going to look a little weird. The things to pay attention to are up here. Over here in the shell. I can actually, I think, close these chats. I'm working on a chat system with HTMX and WebSockets. All of this is done with HTMX and WebSockets right here. I hope that's good enough. So if you can't see very well, this is a messages right now. Like I'll show you how that works. These are alerts, which there are none, and then this is an in-game currency, which is at 0. Okay. So here's what happens whenever I fire a function that is built onto the ledger for the wallet for the dashboard for the user, because it's a pretty complicated little system I've got going on here. But let me go from game.users.models, import user, and then u equals me. All right, so if I say u.dashboard.wallet right here. Okay. So this is this is a transaction function, and I'm passing 300 as a credit. Okay. So watch what happens when I hit enter here. You see that? It added 300. It turned green for a second because of a CSS animation. Do it again. Just did it again. I wish I could zoom in a little bit more. Yeah, it's as much as it'll do. And if you can't tell, the notification counter is going up every time. Okay. So if I change credit to debit, so this means that if a player has an item in a store and somebody purchases that item while that player is online on their account doing whatever, then they will automatically get the notification, and their currency will go up or down or whatever based on whatever happens. It opens up the door for all kinds of random events to happen throughout the website, just all kinds of things. So I'm really excited about this. So if I do debit, it goes down, right? And the whole time it's going to do this. So if I open these up, those are all bold right now because they weren't red. And it's not the best UI. They're still bold. Not the best UI at the moment. I'm still working on that, but this is all Bootstrap. Oh, and then if I go into admin, if I create an account, I automatically get a welcome message, which sends a message to here through WebSocket. But I've also built it in. Where are they? System announcements. So if I add a system announcement, I go, hey, oh, that says gay, my bad. This is a system announcement. This is I'm creating a base announcement, which is going to fire off a signal, which makes an announcement for every user. It's again very kind of a complicated process, right? But this one is for system, so it's specifically for systems that I have blasting out to every user right now. But no matter, like, if I right now, if I click save here, so let's go ahead and click save. It didn't work. Wonder why that didn't work. Can I clone this? Oh, no, that should be it. That should have been it. So something's broken on there right now. It was making, it made this one. I tested it and I moved on currency, but notifications are working, so that's cool. And the currencies are working. Also, this is working. So at the moment, I've got users, and I'm really just doing this as a test. I shouldn't, I'm logged in as this user, so I should go to a different user's profile here. And I'm building it, like I said, I'm building a little DM system. So the way I have it at the moment, just to get the chat rooms moving or to get them created, is I have a start chat button on the profile. And these are all chats with Alex, and right now it's just showing the UUID. But if I click start chat, what that actually does is that sends an HTMX request to, and that should start scroll down. For some reason it didn't, but it does when you open it. Oh, dang. Okay, I must have some error somewhere. But now I've got 3 chats here. And this is zoomed in quite a bit. I need to get all of the actual user stuff like ported over here, and then each of these, this is all controlled by HTMX functions. Each of these is going to be connected to a WebSocket. Each of the chat windows, whenever they're open, they'll have a WebSocket. They won't exist if they're not open. The chat window won't, so you don't have to worry about it. But when they are open, each one will have its own connection to a WebSocket. And then whenever a user sends a message, it's going to hit that WebSocket. It'll show up in whatever chats are open. And so I was working on this really late last night, and so I'm about there. So I'm going to keep working on this on my little side streaming thing. If you want to join me over on Rumble, Really Coding channel. But that's WebSockets pretty much in a nutshell. I wish that the messages worked. That's a bit of a bummer. Oh, wait, look. I did get the message, so don't know what that's about. Sorry, I need to build mechanisms for closing these faster. But yeah, the message came through. So something about that WebSocket didn't get the message or something. But notifications, that works. And it's a good example of what happens when you have channels set up. So that being said, I'm going to hop off now. And next video, we'll actually get into building something like this. Something like the notification system. Or the chat room. So, until then.